Hi, I'm Wendell, and this is Electric Model Escapades. Who are you?
I'm Susan. We're going to talk about the video we just put up a little while ago about the day we picked up our car and flesh out a little bit more of the details that we kind of touched on very basically. So how about, can you start with how you researched the EVs?
Well, there's a lot of factors. I mean, most of it was just done on looking up the statistics and the capabilities of each car, be it GM or BMW or Tesla. And
we didn't see very many of them in the beginning.
No.
There was also a Bolt.
The Bolt was, the Bolt was available.
But it was teeny.
But it was, definitely way too small.
Yeah.
If you don't need a larger car for hauling kids and stuff around, then a Bolt, it might actually work for you. But what we needed was,
it doesn't go very far. At the time.
It wasn't very far. Yeah. But we needed a larger car to haul Susan's stuff around for shows, because this replaced our Expedition.
I should stop long enough just to say I'm an artist and I do outdoor shows. So I needed, I used to pack an Expedition, which is huge. So I need a place for a tent and all the display pieces and boxes and blah, 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 blah. So it had to be a larger vehicle. A Bolt would never have fit even a tenth of what I carry around, so.
And towing a trailer with a Bolt is not really an option.
No. No.
So between size and, really, for the size of the vehicle, there really wasn't anything else available.
No.
Even the Jaguar I-Pace wasn't as big as this.
No, and I went once to the Ford dealership and I asked specifically, if you had this Expedition in an electric version, we would buy it right now. And the guy laughed at me. I said, do you think that's ever going to, he goes, no, that's never going to happen. That was a couple of years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got this knowing that it had a little bit less square footage of cargo space than the Expedition. Expedition has 104 cubic feet.
Oh, that's right.
This one has 88.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost a little bit of space.
20-ish.
Yeah. But when the first time that we loaded this thing up, there's so many little hidey holes in the back.
Yeah.
And we'll do that in another video on
soon.
Where you can pack and all the different little places that or storage is available.
Yeah.
In the back and the front, because there's always the famous frunk.
Yes.
The front trunk.
But I remember packing the back for the first time and looking at you going, this is like the bottomless pit. I put almost all my table display from a 10 by 10 booth in the hole in the back. And I still had room.
Yeah. So everything that fit in the Expedition fit in this car. With a little finagling.
I pared down a few things. Like I bought smaller tables that folded in half, and I did very little, honestly. I did very little. And we'll show you that, because in a future video, we're going to pack this car for an art show, and we'll put it up on YouTube so you can see it.
Right. So, range.
Yeah.
And probably one of the biggest factors in deciding to buy a Tesla was the supercharger network. I touched upon that in our previous video, but it's a huge deal, and it's a little bit less of a deal now because some of the other brands signed up with Tesla to use their network for charging, like Ford, and basically everybody has now.
Right.
They're not all available to do so yet, but they will be in the near future, in the next year or two.
What was the statistic we heard yesterday, or the number? There were 14,000 superchargers just in the United States.
Supercharging stalls.
Yeah, mostly California.
Yeah, at 1,100 different locations.
Yeah, so there's a lot of them. And if you can't charge, like you can't find a gas station, you're in trouble. So that was a big decision. For this particular vehicle.
Right, because we looked up the other charging networks. There was Electrify America, which was just horrible.
No, and we've done road trips and where we find 50 stalls for superchargers.
For
there
Tesla.
are 2 Electrify Americas and 1 doesn't work.
Right.
So,
So they're not readily available, or not available, not readily. There's not a lot of them.
no.
And when there are some, they're famous for having one that doesn't work,
Right.
one that has card reader problems, so again, makes it not work.
Right.
And it makes it very difficult to do any kind of road trip, anything other than a Tesla.
Right.
By going to these others, EVgo, Electrify America. ChargePoint is a level 2 charger, so if you're going to be sitting around for a while, if you're going to be parked
slow.
overnight,
That means slow.
Yeah, there's level 1, which is like plugging into your regular house outlet. That's super slow. Level 2 is a little faster.
Yeah, like a week.
It takes about a week
In a regular
to
outlet.
charge up your car in
Right.
a regular outlet. And then level 3 is the supercharger network is level 3, and that's where you get the fastest charging.
And that's where you see a lot of the media light into, oh my God, don't buy an electric vehicle. You won't be able to get far because the charging network doesn't work for
Right.
cars that are not Teslas.
Right.
So that was a huge factor. The size of the car, how easily we could get around, the range of the vehicle, the reliability of an electric vehicle. We kind of glossed on the fact that I bought a tank of gas in my Expedition at the high point of gas prices out here in California. It was like $125. I just about fainted at the gas pump. But that's not the price of this vehicle. I think we drove back and forth to Colorado. What did it cost us for the round trip? I mean, it was like a couple $100.
Not even. Right.
If we took the Expedition, it would have been $1,000. I mean, it's a huge differential when you're talking gas to electric. Now, electricity prices are going to go up, but I don't know if they're going to be...
Gas prices are going up again now, too.
Yes.
Just going with our daughter to the doctor's this morning, it was $5.30 a gallon.
Well, you're in summer blend again. So it goes up in mid-March.
So even if you're road tripping, it does cost a little bit more to supercharge while you're on the road.
Yeah.
Your home rate, your charge at home, is definitely cheaper, and that's 90% or 99% of your charging is done at home, and that's a whole lot cheaper than.
And you never have to go to the gas station again, ever. Yes. We've been, we go to Costco and we fill the tires with air.
Yeah, and maintenance costs.
That's it.
And what's funny is just this morning I read an article from Car and Driver, I think, that the Tesla has the lowest maintenance cost over a 10-year period of any car.
Well, and that's the other thing. We figured if we bought this car too, I mean, at some point we would love to have a brand new one, but they're a little cost prohibitive. But you don't have to trade in a car like this. You have no pieces and parts that go bad like a gas car. So we figured we may not trade this car for 15 years. It's rated for, what, 1 million miles?
The motors are rated for 1 million miles.
The battery for 250,000 miles?
Battery for 100,000 miles or 8 years, whichever comes first.
Yeah, well, we don't really have that much degradation in the battery.
No, right. And you'll hear that story in the FUD,
Explain FUD, though. FUD is...
fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yes, from the media.
The mass media likes to dump on electric vehicles.
Yes.
And one of the things they'll talk about is battery degradation. And just like with your phone battery, over time, it doesn't hold quite the charge it used to. Right now, we're at this car is how old now? It's 2017, so it's 7 years old.
Yeah.
We have a 12% degradation in our battery, so it holds 12% less charge.
Do you think?
Yeah, than it did when it was brand new.
I don't see it even when we were on a trip. I don't see that being a thing. But
well, it's not a thing. And again, that falls into the supercharging network,
right?
Because they're everywhere, and especially on the freeways. You can have an older car that has a little bit less range, and it's still not a problem.
Well, no, and we have friends that have one of the first Model S's made, and they have no issue with it at all. None. Zero.
Right. And we have another friend who has bought one of the earliest Model Ys when they came out, and they're doing fine too with their car.
He loves it.
Yeah. And our daughter just bought a Model 3 back just a few months ago.
We'll go through that with you too at some point to show you the difference in the two models, and if we can get our friends have moved out of the area, but when they come back, maybe we can do the Y as well. But yeah, a lot of that FUD news you see is just junk.
Well, yeah, because
it doesn't apply to it. It really they want to just undermine the electric vehicle business, in my opinion. That's all they do is throw all this junk at you.
If I had a hat, I'd put my little conspiracy hat on. Because a lot of the FUD that comes from mass media is from their advertising base.
Big oil.
Big oil are huge advertisers and spend a lot of advertising money on major networks and outlets. So, and same with the big three auto companies. Spend a lot of money advertising on ABC or MSNBC or CBS or whatever. So articles come out that
a lot of print media,
and the Times, and a lot of articles come out that just bash electric vehicles because that's their money. Tesla doesn't pay any advertising. They do no advertising at all.
No, it's people like us that do advertising for them.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
PR for the car.
The car. And the company.
And the company, yeah.
Because they're doing some really good things.
Yeah.
But that'll be a different episode.
We'll do another chat about, but yeah, so we've had no issue with this car. We've owned it almost 3 years now. We did put tires on it, and if you watched the episode 1, tires are really the only, we talk about pros and cons, and off the cuff, that's the only thing I can think about. The tires cost us around $1,500. Because of the weight of the car, you're probably going to have to put more, change your tires maybe more often, depending on how you drive, because the car is weighty.
Well,
it's heavy.
Yeah, I just read something not too long ago that there's really not much of a difference. And they were talking about the Model 3 and the Model Y.
Okay, they're lighter than this
car. They're lighter than this car. But this car also, the tires are pretty fat.
They are.
They're pretty fat tires. So,
and they're good quality tires too. We didn't buy cheap tires, obviously. If we spent that kind of money, they're not cheap tires. But
falls back into the maintenance fees or maintenance. The article that I read this morning about Tesla having the lowest maintenance costs over a 10-year period. There's no oil changes. There's no smogging.
Right. So a smog cost us what, $50 every time we go?
$50, $60 depending.
Okay. An oil change would cost me
$50, $75.
Oh no, $100.
Oh, for your expedition?
For my expedition, it cost me over $100. And every time I went, they would point out something else that was wrong with the car. So I never got out of there for less than $300 to $500 because there was always something else. There was a hose or a clamp or one time they tried to charge me $800 for a piece of metal that was like 1.5 inches long. There's always something with a gas car, always something else. It's not just an oil change.
Right. And granted, this is a car. It's an electric car, but it's still a car. And yes, there are some things that can go wrong with it.
Yeah.
We had
door motors.
Right, because this particular model has automatic doors. I push a button and the door swings open. I push the button again, the door closes. That particular motor went out on both doors eventually.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And the beauty is, with Tesla service, they came to our house and fixed it.
Yep.
You set up an appointment. If it's something they can do, it's not a big deal. Have a little gizmo changed or a vent.
Yep. You don't leave the house.
Plastic on my vent or something. You don't leave the house.
I don't even think he knocked on the door.
Well, I went out.
We knew he was coming.
We knew he was coming. I went out and I opened the car for him.
Yeah.
So I went outside. But if it's something major, then there are Tesla service centers all over the country that you can set up an appointment with and take it in. And we had to do that once because when it was delivered to us on the way over here from Las Vegas, where the car was, a rock or something must have flew up and cracked the windshield.
Well, and that takes me to another topic, which is that was probably the easiest car buying ever.
Yeah.
You got on the site. We decided we'd buy a used version because at the time this car was 6 figures and we couldn't afford that at all. There was no possible way to do that. So we kept looking at the site and we landed on this car coming out of Vegas. And I mean, I think you pushed 8 buttons and boom, we had the thing on a truck. They said it'll be here in 2 weeks. You did the same with all the loan paperwork and all the acquisition stuff. I think you signed in the episode 1. You'll see him sign. I think you signed 1 sheet of paper while you were there, maybe 2.
Yeah, I didn't sign much.
And we drove away.
Physically sign much.
When we bought my Expedition, brand new, we were at the dealership. I'm not kidding you, for almost 12 hours.
Yeah.
We rolled in about in the afternoon, and we didn't leave till like midnight. And it was a game the entire time. Which I swore I would never do again because it was demeaning, time-consuming, and the guy treated us like we were idiots.
Yeah, that was a horrible experience.
So dealing with a traditional dealership is just painful.
It's
painful.
Yeah, the purchasing of this especially through Tesla. Well, no one else does direct-to-consumer sales. GM and Ford and everybody else, they're required by law to sell through a dealership because the dealership association will not allow them to sell direct to consumers.
I'll make one exception to that because we also owned a Honda at one time, and that was pretty simple because we went in with a newspaper ad and they had to wash the car, and you were there for more time than it took to buy the Tesla, of course.
Right.
But that was much simpler than
it was easier.
The Expedition.
Except they jacked us around with the window.
Yeah, well,
but anyway, that's a different story. But yeah, but nobody else you can buy direct from. So going to a website, picking your car, leaving I think it's $100 deposit now to reserve it, locks it in.
I don't think we did that.
Yeah,
did we?
Yeah, we did.
We did? Okay.
So it's like $100 deposit, and then that kind of locks the car in for you, and then you fill out the paperwork to get the loan
or whatever, and
they ship it, and you go down and you pick it up, and it's super easy.
And our daughter did the same thing with the Model 3. I don't think it took her a half an hour. She went in her bedroom, she did all this stuff, she came out and she went, "Can we go pick up my car in a week?" I was like, okay. Yeah,
and they were great. Because she was new and she didn't really know much about Teslas, they walked her through. You spent 30 or 45 minutes with her.
Yeah, she was a lovely gal, and she showed our daughter all the ins and outs of her car. She spent a lot of time with her, and the most fun thing, because it was the very first car she's ever purchased on her own, they had a big sign in the window that had her name on it, "Welcome to your new Model 3. It was very, very sweet. So I think I called it a dealership in episode 1, but it's really kind of a showroom, right? It's not really a dealership.
Yeah, it's a showroom service center.
Yeah, so I misspoke about that.
It's really just where you pick up your car or take it if you need some kind of a larger service that they can't do at your home.
Or if you just want to go look and like pet the cars. We went and saw the Cybertruck. Very, very cool. Yeah.
Oh, and if not only will they come to your home, but they'll come to your place of work too.
Oh yeah.
So if you have something that's not overly complicated, or they don't have to take the car apart to get to it, they'll come to your place of work and fix it.
I don't think I've ever seen that with any of the big 3. That's never been a service.
They might drop you off at work.
Well, they'll loan you a vehicle.
Or loan you a vehicle, yeah.
Maybe.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
That's the first time I drove a Model 3 is I brought this in.
Oh yeah, they gave me, I forgot about that. They gave me the car.
Yeah, and they gave me a Model 3 to drive around.
Yeah, well, it was
that was fun. It's a fun little car. I like that car.
Yeah. What else did we do that first date? Well, I wasn't kidding when I said driving the Expedition for 17 years is like a horse-drawn carriage in comparison, because you got in this thing and it's really a spaceship, because everything is automated and everything is touch screen, and the door, like you said, the doors open on their own, the wing doors open all by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, you can program it so the door will open as you walk up to your car. We don't have that feature enabled.
Right, or you can summon it. Like, we haven't really done that because it's a little nerve-wracking, but we could put it in the garage and just with our phones, right? Pull it out into the driveway.
We had to do that once. We were at a restaurant or something.
Oh, yeah.
And we came back out and somebody had parked like about this far from me.
It was a truck.
And I could not even get to my door.
No, let alone open it.
So I turned on the summon, I backed the car out of the spot remotely, and then got in and drove away.
Yeah.
That was neat. That was fun.
Yeah, it's cool. So there's a lot of things that go on with this car that I don't have in, well, the age of my vehicle,
No.
but we certainly didn't have it in the Honda either.
Oh, no.
So it was it is definitely a learning curve, that I'll give you, because there's so many options to go through. We touched on regen braking and stuff like that. The regen feels like, what do you call it when you hurt your neck?
Whiplash?
Whiplash. If you're not used to it,
it does take a little getting used to, because it
a lot
does
of getting used to.
really slow down the vehicle and transfer that motion energy back into electrical energy that recharges the battery when it slows down. It's called regenerative braking.
Yeah, and it does it on the freeway, depending on if you're going uphill or downhill. Yeah, we've done that too. He took me on a very anxiety-ridden hill drive in the middle of the desert with nothing around and nobody to even save you. I don't even know if we had cell reception in some spots. And he looked at me and said, yeah, we have 45 miles to go. And I look over and the car says, oh, you've got 35 miles. Oh, fabulous.
That was fun. It was 35 miles of range on the car, 45 miles to go.
I was ready to
get to the next charger. Or my little panic-stricken wife.
Yeah.
was
Hyperventilating.
little white knuckled on the car, but because it was mostly downhill, we still got there with 12 or 15%.
We did, yeah.
Or 15 miles left on the battery.
I was sweating it the whole way, but he understands the car better. It just panics me because even in a gas car, I never let my gas gauge go much below a quarter tank because that's just my sweet spot for stuff like that. So when you're telling me we're going to go 45 miles and the car says 35, well, that makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, where else can you go downhill and have more range or more able to go further at the bottom of the hill than at the top of the hill?
I can stick at the Expedition in neutral.
You're still burning gas.
I'm still burning gasoline.
When it's idling, it's still burning gas.
Yeah.
So this will recharge. We've gone to some of the mountain communities around here, and on the way back, it's really interesting because you'll have, 70 or 80 miles of range at the top of the hill, and you have close to 100 miles of range at the bottom of the mountain.
Of the hill.
It's really kind of interesting how that works because the car is just regenerating the whole time while it's slowing you down, so you almost never have to buy brake pads for these cars because the regenerative braking does most of your slowing down of the vehicle for you.
Yeah.
So you really don't have to buy brake pads.
And it still does that. I have it turned down when I drive because I don't like that sudden movement, so mine's more nuanced when I do it, but it still doesn't use the brakes.
Right.
So, yeah.
Just the last 20 feet.
Yeah.
You use the brakes to come to a complete stop. Other than that,
yeah,
you can almost do one pedal driving. Our daughter's Model 3 is a step above that. It is true one pedal driving. She rarely ever even touches the brake pedal. It completely stops her car.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Said that
the older ones like this one don't bring it to a complete stop.
Hers does.
Yeah, hers does.
Interesting.
And the newer ones of these probably do as well, but I don't know why they should be software. Anyway.
Well, you just said software. So that's the other thing. When you see articles in the mass media that say, oh my God, Tesla recalled 200,000 vehicles. Oh my God, the earth is going to stop rotating. Nobody ever goes back to the showroom to have a recall it's not actually a recall. It's just a software adjustment, which we get over the air, over cell service and Wi-Fi. And the car sits in the garage and it updates and whatever. Like the last time was what? The text font
the
was
icons.
too small.
Yeah, they changed the size of the
So they did
icons in the
an
text.
update while our car sat in the garage, and when you came out the next day, your recall was done because your text was larger. And that was a huge article in the news.
Yeah.
Which is stupid and dumb, because that's not how it works. And they don't necessarily ever explain it, which is...
Right, you see the headline, recall.
Yeah,
So,
it's frustrating.
It's a software update they pushed over the air. Nobody had to bring the car in.
Well, we had a recall on the Honda. You have to go back to the dealership. You have a recall on your GM car, you go back to the dealership. You have a recall on your Ford, you go back to the dealership.
Right.
You have to take time out of your work day life to go fix your car. This car just sits around. It gets it all by itself.
And unfortunately, with most of the other, and this is another thing that...
FUD?
Well, no, another reason that I landed on the Tesla is the other manufacturers are really having a hard time doing over-the-air updates because, like the Jim Farley, head of Ford, talked about, they have 150 different manufacturers that make these little control modules that control different parts of the car. You know, one might control the windows, one might control the brakes, one might control the taillights.
Engine.
You know,
It's not an engine, I'm sorry.
The fuel, or whatever. And those 150 different vendors that make these parts all make their software, all write their software differently in different languages, different programming languages, or different styles, or with different
And they
hookups.
don't talk to each other.
And they don't talk to each other. So when Ford says, oh, we need to change the way our taillights work, they got to go to vendor A, ask them to reconfigure it or reprogram it. Who knows how long that takes.
Well, who was it in the beginning when we first were looking at EVs? Volkswagen? They did something wrong.
Oh.
And they had all the cars parked. There was a sea of thousands of vehicles. They had to manually go out with a computer and plug into each car because they couldn't get it to work right.
Right, to update the software.
Yeah.
And since Tesla started making EVs back in 2000, well, the first Roadster I think came out in 2008, but the first mass market car, the Model S, 2012, 2013,
in that neighborhood. Yeah.
And then this version, the Model X, came out in 2016 originally. But they've been making them for a long time.
Yeah.
That was one of the key factors is, okay, they've been doing it, when we bought it in 2021. Yes, 2021.
2021, still mask season.
Still mask season, yeah. At that time, they've been making them for almost 10 years.
Yeah, so we felt a lot more comfortable that they'd worked out the bugs.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. So
yeah.
That's how we landed on this X. And we're going to try to do a lot more little things like just real life experiences so that if you're watching us and you're thinking about EVs, but then you aren't sure, maybe we can help you figure that out in some manner. So if you have questions or whatever, comments, you want to ask, please ask away, because it's all real life experiences with our car that we can answer for you. And and subscribe and push that like button, or like our friend in Italy, push those buttons. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye.